गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। So we have been discussing that Ajnata Atma, unknown Atma, appears as the world. So here unknownness is not something, a special substance other than the Atma, as some people think. As we have discussed yesterday, the Prakriti, they imagine the Prakriti because they see the world to be inert object and also substantial. It passes one's understanding. How does this solid, real, inert object come into existence? How does it come into existence? It is a solid, real world. So, seeing the world to be solid, people start imagining there must be some inert object as a cause of it. So, if you say simple conscious Atma alone produces the world, they think it is impossible. There must be some substance. So, Vedanta corrects it by telling that first thing is the substance. World itself is not a substance. World is only a mithya jnana, a misunderstanding, a misconception, a wrong thought. Just as snake is only a wrong thinking, snake is only a misconception. Except misconception, there is no substantially snake is not there. Similarly, Jagat is only a misconception. So he says this adhyasa appears on the unknown Atma, Ajnata Atma. That Sureshwaracharya's shloka quoted by Swamiji. Ajnata Atmatirekena nahi Vedanta Siddhante Ajnata Atmatirekataha Sankhyanamiva Siddhante labhyate karanantaram. We have no cause other than the unknown Atman for the world to appear there. For the world means the whole avastha, the whole waking state, including other two states. All the states appear to be there upon the Atma, and the Atma appears to be only when it is unknown. Unknown means what? Atma is not recognized as the Atma. Okay. Now this aviveka, when he used the word, the aviveka has got another connotation, another implication too. That Swamiji continues, Yadi hayam loko vivichya atmanam anatmanancha swarupato nirdharanam kuryat. Had people had people understood, or if people had a clear perception, clear understanding of this is Atma and Anatma is only a Kalpita. Had people understood discriminatively these two. See, Vivichya Atmanatmanam Swarupato Nirdharanam Kurya. Had they understood the nature of the real nature of the Atma by discriminating. Discriminating means with the help of a discriminative knowledge. Means the knowledge is discriminative knowledge. That's what it means. If people had a very clear discriminative understanding that Atma is Atma and Anatma is only a misunderstanding of the same Atma. Actually, Anatma doesn't exist and Atma alone exists. In short, it is this. If Atma alone is and Anatma doesn't exist, it is only due to misunderstanding. Had people this kind of a clear discriminative understanding, nirdharanam kuryat tatah evam, then there would not have been this adhyasa. The mixing of Atma, Anatma would not have been there if we had a clear discriminative understanding of Atma and Anatma. Clear discriminative understanding is what? Now we are mixing up Atma with the Anatma. That means in our present understanding, we see the consciousness as a known, is a subject as well as an object also. Consciousness is the knower of the world. At the same time, we think that I am conscious. I am conscious. The very thought that I know I am consciousness itself includes both the elements of Atma and Anatma. So this inclusion of both the elements of Atma and Anatma, that is, I am conscious being and I know that I am conscious being. See, the self-knowing, that means what? Knowing oneself. Can consciousness be known? But this is what our experience is. Consciousness is not a matter of an object. Yet I think that I know myself. So making Atma an object of consciousness, one side we know Atma is consciousness. Another side we say Atma is an object of consciousness because I know myself. So this kind of a mixed understanding, called by another name adhyasa or a misunderstanding, this adhyasa, this misunderstanding would not have been there had we known this Atma and Anatma very clearly by discrimination. Very clearly by discrimination means, had we known Atma to be self-existent, pure consciousness, and Anatma, there is no such thing called Anatma. Atma alone seen wrongly as Anatma. Otherwise, Anatma has no existence of its own. And Atma has self-existence and it alone is a reality. If this understanding had we had, Adhyasa would not have been there. So here, Adhyasa due to Aviveka, when we said, Aviveka is the nimittam for misunderstanding. Aviveka is nimittam when we say, the idea of nimittam, Swamiji is specifically, elaborately discussing, because this nimittam has created a havoc. Post Shankarites explained it as a material cause, something transforming, modifying into the world. So they put it as if really there is a substance which modifies into the world. They've made world as a real product. All this because they interpreted this one word, mithya jnana nimittaha, athava aviveka nimittam mithya jnanam. This nimitta word itself, they made a full philosophy, whole philosophy based upon this one word. They created a lot of speculation. And in fact, with Swamiji and others, this is the bone of contention. In fact, this has been the main contention. Swamiji says Adhyasa is instinctive. Adhyasa is instinctive and it doesn't need any cause. All cause and effect can be imagined only being in Adhyasa. Presupposing Adhyasa alone, we imagine all causes. So unknown Atma is taken to be the world and Jiva and all this world, that's all. Unknown Atma is taken to be the world. So this is what our experience says, and therefore Swamiji told, due to Aviveka, owing to Aviveka, when we say, owing to Aviveka, on account of Aviveka, when we say Adhyasa is, on account of Aviveka or owing to Aviveka, Aviveka nimittam, seeing the nimittam word, they imagined Aviveka is a substance and it transformed. Here he told Ajñātātma, with the help of the Sureshwaracharya's Vakya, unknown Atma appears as a world, that's all. Taken wrongly. Here, one more implication of Aviveka, the nimitta, Aviveka nimitta is, if there were no Aviveka, there would not have been Adhyasa. So this in keeping future in view he is telling. If you remove your aviveka, there will not be adhyasa. Removing aviveka means what? Aviveka is not a substance to be removed. Removing aviveka, although we express like that, we express that removing aviveka, it only means discriminating, that's all. Had we discriminated, there would not have been adhyasa, that's all it means. So that aviveka, adhyasa should, in short, aviveka, adhyasa should not be seen as two entities. That's all it means. This is as simple as this. Aviveka and adhyasa are not two things. And don't put any relation between them, that aviveka is previous and adhyasa is later. Aviveka is the cause and adhyasa is a product. Don't put a cause and effect relationship. Don't book the previous and later relationship. Simply say aviveka is a condition in which you happen to find adhyasa. So when you find misunderstanding, the misunderstanding naturally implies that there is no viveka. That's all it means. The word nimitta only means this much. When there is misunderstanding, whenever there is misunderstanding, there is no clear discrimination. So that lack of discrimination is implied in the misunderstanding, that's all. And then it also offers a solution. Keeping the solution in view, this kind of expression helps. Two things, that in the condition of non-understanding, you find a misunderstanding. In the condition of non-understanding, non-discrimination, you find a misunderstanding. This is the explanation. Second, the future solution is, if you can somehow remove that indiscrimination. By removing the indiscrimination means discriminate it, that's all. If there were discrimination, adhyasa would not have been there, that's all. So the lack of discrimination alone makes you see a misunderstanding. But if there were discrimination, misunderstanding would not have been there. That's all it means. It doesn't present a cause and effect relationship. This is simple as this. Therefore, yadi shayam loko viviccha atmanatmanam cha swarupato nirdharanam kurya. If they had done proper discrimination of the nature of, the real nature of Atma and the real nature of Anatma. See, this is an interesting thing. Real nature of Atma is consciousness. Real nature of Anatma is Atma only. See, the real nature of Anatma is only apparent nature under misunderstanding. The real nature of snake is rope only. Similarly, the real nature of Anatma is Atma only. And nature of Atma, what is the nature of Atma? The nature of Atma is being independently Atma, that's all. Now we are seeing Atma being connected to Anatma, being mixed up with Anatma. So by discrimination, what we come to understand is Atma is independently Atma, unmixed with Atma. Without being mixed with Anatma, it is pure Atma. Then what is Anatma? Anatma in its original nature is again Atma. This is the discriminative understanding. Had we had this discriminative understanding, there would not have been Anatma and there would not have been exchanging the identity between Atma and Anatma. Therefore, Swarupato nirdharanam kuryat tatah evam viruddha swabhavayoh itaretharatvam. We would not have found in this situation where we find Atma and Atma mixed up. In a mixed condition alone, you find yourself in it. That means we would not have found ourselves in a jiva state, in karta bhokta state, where I am conscious but identify with the body, mind and sense organs. This identified state of jiva bhava would not have been there if we had the clear viveka. So, itaretara dharmatvam cha aropya na vyavaharet. There would not have been adhyasa, nor would not have been vyavahara, following from adhyasa, issuing from adhyasa. Okay, now we can vivek abhavat tayoh swabhavam ajanan. So, on account of on account of the absence of viveka, mityaiva atat swabhavam samaropayan. So we find ourselves in the absence of viveka, we find ourselves in adhyasa. Samaropayan satyaswarupe chidatman. Now he is repeating the adhyasa. We have already repeated, so I just read out. Satyaswarupe chidatmani. Chaitanyatma, which is the satyam, which is real. In that thing, anrutasya dehadehe. The body and others which are unreal are imposed. Unreal or imposed means what? See, unreal anatma imposed on the atma. We shouldn't think that there was unreal atma first and later imposition took place. See, this is how the human mind thinks, because the language lends you to misunderstand like this. False anatma, anruta mithya anatma imposed on atma. It only means the very anatma appearance itself is due to adhyasa. The very anatma itself is due to adhyasa, and that it is taken to be atma is also adhyasa. So the very anatma and its misunderstanding with atma, mixing up, exchanging with atma, both appear in the wake of misunderstanding only. Both appear in the wake of adhyasa only. This is what it means. Therefore, when we say anatma dehadi, mithya dehadi imposed on atma, this is the important point I have been repeating hundreds of times. In spite of repetition, people tend to misunderstand. They say anatma is there and then it is imposed on atma. There is no anatma before adhyasa takes place. They think that first there is atma and anatma and then there is a mutual misunderstanding. Anatma comes into appearance only due to adhyasa. That means when you are taking anatma to be atma, atma to be anatma, in this adhyastha condition alone anatma is present. See the point. Anatma is found to be anatma only in an adhyastha condition. If you remove adhyasa, anatma doesn't exist. Very peculiar situation. Snake appears to be snake only when it is mistaken for rope. If they are separated, if they are discriminated, snake doesn't exist, rope alone exists. Therefore, the presence of anatma is found to be there only under adhyasa. Not that before adhyasa, anatma was present and later we started exchanging. Even the exchanging, atma, anatma, mutual exchanging, in this exchanging alone, anatma is to be found. Anatma is to be found only during adhyasa, only within adhyasa. Outside adhyasa, anatma doesn't have an existence. Therefore, viveka chidatmane anrutasya dehadehe. So body, mind, sense organs, these are anruta. This anruta anatma is mistaken or is imposed on atma. So imposing is not an event. The imposed state we already are, we are explaining that. We are explaining already imposed state. Imposition is not an event taking place at some time. Don't look for a state there was no imposition before and later big imposition. Imposition as an event nobody can see. Imposition, adhyasa as an event nobody can see and it is impossible. We are already in an imposed state. That's why you and I are jivas and karta bhokta talking. That I am talking to you as a karta bhokta pramatru and you are listening to me as a karta bhoktru pramatu. This itself is an adhyasa. In this dehendriya mind you are included in it. Deha indriya manassu, which are false. False means don't exist on their own. They appear in the wake of adhyasa and they get exchanged with atma. In that exchanged state alone is jiva bhava. All these three put together as a one anubhava. For sake of explanation, we are dividing atma, anatma, anitya anatma, then adhyasa. In that adhyasa, we find vyavahara. So these three steps should not be imagined as three events occurring in a sequence. They are not the events. They don't occur in a sequence. They are just one experience. All the three is a one experience. Okay. Satyaswarupe chidatmani anrutasya dehadehe. See, the bodily, I am the body. Bodily, I identify myself with the body, and also exchange the body, qualities of the body as my qualities, and I impose my qualities upon the body. See, this is a very, very strange thing we are in. What is the nature of the body? Qualities, dharmas of the body. Body is subject to birth and death. Okay. Janma marana jara vyadhi. Janma marana jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Janma marana jara vyadhi. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Body has got a janma. Body has got a mrityu. Body has got a jara. Jara means old age. Vyadhi is a disease. So body is subject to birth and death. Body is subject to old age and disease. And body also becomes sometimes healthy. So these are the conditions of the body, called as qualities of the body or properties of the body. Dharmas, deha dharmas. We take deha dharmas as belonging to oneself. So the Atma, which is consciousness, is subject to birth and death, we feel. We feel that I am subject to birth and death, I am subject to disease, I am subject to old age, I am subject to all kinds of things. So deha dharmas we take to be me. That means we don't see deha and dharma separate. Deha is me, deha dharmas are me, my dharmas. Then the Atma dharmas are imposed on Anatma. Tad vaiparityena chaitanyadin. Now, how is that? The imposition is vice versa. See, Anatma dharmas are imposed on Atma and vice versa. Vice versa means Atma dharmas upon the Atma, upon the Anatma. How? The dharmas of Atma is Chaitanyam. Atma nature is Chaitanyam. It is eternally existing. We take body to be Chaitanyam. We take mind and sense organs to be Chaitanyam. Because the Chaitanyam actually belongs to Atma. It is the very nature of Atma. So, Anatma, like body and mind and sense organs, do not have consciousness. Yet we find eyes are seeing. See, eyes are seeing, ears are hearing. So we see sense organs are capable of knowing. Don't we see? Sense organs are capable of knowing. Mind is capable of knowing. Aham buddhi is capable of knowing. This is what we think. That means we are putting the nature of the Atma on them. Another important thing is Atma is by nature eternal. Eternal means not subject to birth and death. Ever existing. Eternal means always exists. Atma by its nature is ever existing. But we impose the nature of the Atma upon the body and nature of the body upon the Atma. That means we don't see them as two. We see them as mixed one. One mixed thing. Inseparably mixed. That's what we see them. How body is subject to birth and death, but I take that I am subject to birth and death. Atma is eternal. We think body is not going to die. Okay. When I am the body, everybody thinks that I am eternal. This is a very interesting question in Yaksha Prashna. When Yaksha appears during the exile forest life of Pandavas, when Yaksha appears in a form and puts questions. The detailed story you know, only I would like to refer to the last question he put. He put so many questions, but one last question is, what is the greatest wonder in life? Our modern world says there are 7 wonders in the world. Out of them, the Indian wonder is a rubbish. The Indian wonder, so-called 7th wonder, is a world nothing but rubbish. It is a trash. We made it into rubbish because we have been slaves even now. There are much more wonders, but anyway, we leave them. Now, what is the biggest wonder? In fact, Yaksha Prashna can be called as Yaksha Book of Records, not Guinness Book of Records. We can call them Yaksha Book of Records or Yudhishthira Book of Records. Yudhishthira book of very good book. Yaksha Prashna is an excellent booklet which asks very interesting questions, very curious, wonderful questions. Wondrous things in the world. Wonders in the world it questions. He says, what is the biggest wonder in the world? You know how wise Yudhishthira was? We see many people dying right in front of us. This is the reply of Yudhishthira. We see many people die right in front of us. We ourselves see them carry their dead body and burn them. We see right in front of us, and we with our hands go and burn the dead body. Yet, we think that we are going to live eternally in this world. Don't we? People think that we are going to live eternally in this world. If had we known that I am not going to live, I tell you, all our thinking would have been different. But people think that once I am in this world, I am in this world means what? Who is that I am? Body is in this world. When I say I am sitting, what are you referring? Referring to? I am sitting. You are referring to the body. Body is sitting. Oh, where are you? I am living in Bangalore. Body is in Bangalore. Oh, I am walking. Who is that? It is the body is walking. You equate body with you. Body is walking, I am walking. Because I am the body. Oh, what a wonder, what a biggest wonder. And body is subject to death. And I say, one side we are worried of death. Another side we want to live eternally. We take it for granted that we live eternally. This is a very peculiar, this is what we mean Atma Anatma Adhyasa. Nature of the Atma is eternal. Nature of the body is subject to death, mortal. Body is mortal, Atma is eternal. We exchanged these two entities, so much in our experience. One side we think we live eternally in the earth. We live eternally in the world. Again we think that we are worried about death. Again one side we are worried about death. Another side we think we live eternally on the earth. Can you explain this contradictory irony of life? This irony, contradiction, contradictory thinking. One side you think you are eternal, you are not going to die. Again you are worried that you might die. People wonder, are you mad? It is our own experience, that's why we don't call mad. If it were somebody else, we would definitely give the name, he is a mad fellow. He is a madcap. But every one of us is in the same condition. We are all in the same condition. Therefore, we refuse to call ourselves mad. Nobody wants to call himself mad. Do you know that? Nobody wants to call himself mad. Even if there is a real madman taken to a mental hospital, what the madman does? The first question the madman asks the doctor is, "Sir, are you a mental patient?" He would ask the first question. He will ask the first question to the doctor only. And he asks, "Sir, are you a mental patient? Have you come here to get treated?" He asks them. But next sentence he adds, "Do you know that? But I am not." You see, he talks to the doctors are seasoned, they know it. They know how to handle the patients. So therefore, they neither laugh nor take it seriously. They take it, just ignore it, and they continue their job. Because doctors know them thoroughly well. So, when a madman comes to them, is brought by nurses and other people, catch them, hold them, because the fellow will do all mischief, will jump and dance and do break and everything. You don't know what will go, run away somewhere. They catch him and bring him to the doctor. And doctor knows how to handle. The person who comes here, the mental patient, first question he asks the doctor is, "Are you a mental patient, sir?" He says. But next sentence he asks, "But I am not." So, we are really in mental condition alone. I know that I am eternal. I think that I eternally live, but at the same time I am worried that I am subject to death. I may die. Each moment, if the bus comes, I say, "Hey, move away." I am lucky that I am saved. Otherwise, you see, if had I come closer to the bus, I would have gone. Every moment you are worried about death. What should we call this fellow? Who is this fellow? The same Jiva. Who who thinks that he is eternally living on this earth. He lives eternally in this world. At the same time, he is worried of death. Then tell me clearly, are you eternal or mortal? Tell me. And he says, I am eternal. I am eternal. I know I am very eternal, perfect. I live here eternally. But only one thing is I am worried about death. You ask him, are you eternal or mortal? He says, oh, of course I am eternal. But what are you talking? I am eternal. I am eternal. I always exist. Then what is your problem? Only one small problem I have got, but I am only worried that I may die. I am subject to death. I am only afraid of my death. Huh? Just now you told you are eternal. Yes, I mean it. No, I'm not saying anything differently. I'm not withdrawing my statement. I didn't tell anything wrongly, hastily, casually. I didn't say casually, hastily, wrongly. I mean it. I'm eternal. I'm going to live in this world eternally. Then what is, I'm only worried that I might die. What do you call this fellow? What do you call this fellow? Who is this fellow? Every jiva. We all are like this fellow. Who is this fellow? Very great wonder. You are eternal, but you are worried about death. So this is called adhyasa. Eternity is mixed with... You think the eternity of the Atma, you put on the body. And the mortality of the body, you put on the Atma. Huh? You take it upon Atma. The mortality of the body, you take it upon the Atma. And the eternity of the Atma, you put it on the body. This you are not consciously putting. This is not an event. This is an instinctive, natural understanding. Whenever I am Jiva, as a Jiva, this is what I have, an instinctive understanding. Nobody teaches us. Everybody thinks I exist. So this instinctive understanding is adhyasa, in which we have a mixed up eternity and mortality. Therefore, deha there, not only that, even all the qualities of the body, I am subject to birth. People are so happy to celebrate their birthday. They want to celebrate the birthday, but why don't they celebrate their death day also? Ammo, they'll be angry if you talk like that. They'll be angry if you talk like that. They say, are you fool? What are you talking? Death day should we celebrate? You want me to celebrate? I celebrate birthday. Then why do you think that you always exist here? This is a very strange thing. People want to celebrate their birthday. At the same time, they think that they are eternal. If there is any mental person on the earth, it is Jiva. Every Jiva is a mental. Mental means confused fellow. This is what we call moha mudha. Shankaracharya says in Bhajagovindam, 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 mudhamate. Mudhamate means a fellow Jiva still in adhyasa. You have not done the viveka and understood that you are a sakshi. You are not a Jiva, you are not an individual. Still you are under that mudhamati. Whom is he addressing? Every Jiva on the earth. Every Jiva on the earth is addressing as mudhamati. People don't have to feel offended. Oh, Shankaracharya is calling me fool. People think that Shankara has got a very bad language. He is calling us fool. He should learn how to politely talk to people. That to a great man like us. We are so great people. How dare Shankaracharya calls us fools? Shankara is not calling you are a given person or one person or two people or anybody. He is talking of all Jivas are fools. Why? That is his asset. Jiva is Jiva only when he is fool. If he is not fool, he would not be Jiva. If he were not fool, he would not be Jiva. When he is not Jiva, he is no more foolish. Simple thing. So the foolish and Jivatvam are synonymous. Okay. Foolishness and Jivatvam are just synonymous. Who is fool? Whoever is Jiva. Who is Jiva? One who is fool. Okay. Jiva and foolishness both are just synonymous. If you want to escape the one, you have to escape from the other one also. You give up your Jivatvam, foolishness goes away automatically. If foolishness goes away, your Jivatvam also will go away. So, you become just a Sakshi. Therefore, Jivatvam, when you are a Jiva, there is Atma Anatma Adhyasa. You already taken yourself to be body, and body's quality as you and your quality as body. Tad vaiparithyena chaitanyadin vishaya dharman, and chaitanya, that is sentiency, eternity, these things we impose on the body, and we take body is sentient, don't we say? In fact, all science lives on this adhyasa only. Science says that there are living and non-living beings, animate and inanimate. What is living and what is non-living? It says human body is living, and the inert object stone is non-living. First in the biology, in the school days, I think in 8th standard or somewhere, we studied in the biology. First day they say what is living and what is non-living. They will determine. So with adhyasa alone our biology starts. Our biology starts with adhyasa. What is that? What is living and what is non-living? It says human beings and animals are living, plants and animals are living, and then remaining are non-living. So what are the features, what are the characteristic features are living? Living people feel hungry, and living people feel hungry and thirst. Living people respond. If somebody tries to kill him, hurt him, they respond. And also they grow. Okay, they grow. Sometimes they move. Not all of them. Animals move, but plants do not move. Okay, moving is partly true, but at least they are active. They are active. They grow. They feel hungry and thirsty. They change. This is the nature of living being. But inert objects are not conscious of. You hit them, they don't respond. They don't react. Whereas living beings react. You hit them, you attract them, you do something, they react. Good or bad way, they react. Inert object, you bring the book and put here, it doesn't react. Hey, I'm falling down, don't put me here, put on the table. It doesn't say that. Oh, I have fallen in water. The book doesn't say, because book doesn't respond. Book doesn't feel hungry. If book feels hungry, my God, I have got a big library. Just as I am getting my bhiksha, from my bhiksha, I have to share with my books also. That would be most difficult thing. Then I tell you, no sannyasi would have a single book on the life, in his life, because his bhiksha alone is difficult. Where will he share the bhiksha for him? For books also, that becomes very difficult. So no book, no table will eat the food. No table or book will drink water. Okay. That means they don't grow, they don't feel hungry and thirsty, they are not born, they don't have mother and father, they don't say. So they have decided what is living and what is non-living based upon these external features. Here then biggest mistake is they take body to be conscious. Body to be sentient, and stone should be insentient. The scientist, all their scientist philosophy goes wrong with virus. When they come to virus, they are unable to decide whether it is animate or inanimate, whether it is a living or non-living. The virus, when it is within our body, any other body, any other living body, it behaves like a living being, living cell. Once it is out of the body, it appears like a simple chemical. It is a chemical, it doesn't grow. It just remains a simple chemical. When it goes into the body, it starts behaving like a living being. My God, this virus has become a big challenge to scientists. It has overthrown all their definitions of living and non-living. It has overthrown their definition. So therefore, we take body to be conscious. This is how the biology starts. Human body are all living beings. Animals are living being conscious. And stone and other things are table are non-living. In this itself there is a clear adhyasa. We call body to be living being. That means we have imposed consciousness in the body. We have imposed. Otherwise body cannot feel hungry, body doesn't have anything. The pain it doesn't feel. Pain and pleasure all living beings feel. And this is one more thing. Pain and pleasure every living being feels. A stone or book do not feel pain and pleasure. A stone or book or table do not feel pain and pleasure. So here we can see the nature of Atma we have imposed on Anatma. So the nature of consciousness is attached to body and the qualities of the body are attached to Atma. I take myself to be body. It's very clear. That's why I take care of the body, protect the body. If something happens to body, I am worried. That means I equate myself with the body. I am sitting here, I am talking to you. When I say I am sitting here, when I say I am here, what is that I? Whom does the I refer to? I is referring to the body. Okay. Therefore, Vishay Dharman Dehadishu Adhyasya Vyavaharan Samsaranartham Anubhavati. He is experiencing this samsara anartha, the evil of samsara. Evil of samsara means what? Samsara literally means moving, flowing, moving on, a flowing. I don't know what you say. A continuous change is called samsara. A continuous change, a onward movement, moving on, onward movement, are changing from one condition to another condition, one experience to another experience, a continuously, helplessly undergoing changes. I undergo change without my permission, without my knowledge. You see, I am born as a human being. Who made me human being? Ask me. Who made me human being? Why should I be human being? People say that I don't know. I can only tell you one thing. Assure you, you are a human being. That much I assure you. He says, why did I become human being? Who made me human being? Did the fellow ask me? He should have asked me. Who made me human being? You ask your mother and father. They say, you know, I asked my mother, sometimes in my angry mood, why did you give birth to me? And you know what she asked? Why did you come into my stomach? This is the counter question. Why did you first come? You should not have come. Somebody else would be born in your place. This is the question she would answer. That means it has no answer. That's what it means. So, who made us just we are? We find ourselves to be body, a human body. And we don't know. We just are. After remaining a human being, you start thinking, why did I come? See, even to think you should be human being first. So helplessly undergoing various experiences, okay? Helplessly I am a human being. Helplessly I feel hungry. Do you choose to be hungry? No. See, when you go to sleep, who decides to wake up? Tell me. Do you decide to wake up? No. Then how did you wake up? I don't know. I am awake, this much I know. That's what I'm telling. You are made helplessly to be awake. You come into waking state. Who brought you? I know, I don't know, but I am. See, are you making effort or you are forced to do things? See, this is an interesting thing. Are you consciously making effort or you are forced to? You think things are forced upon you and things are happening, helplessly happening. You didn't think of waking up, but you find yourself awake as a human being. You are in a human condition. Supposing you wake up and sit on the bed only, how long you will sit? Let me see. Let me see how lazy you can be. I think if I put a competition, how long can you sit on the bed alone? Or if not sitting, lying down. You woke up, but you are lying down. Let me see how much laziness you can show. At least we will put you into Guinness book. Prove that at least laziness. How long you will lie down on your bed? Something will push you to wake you up, make you sit up. Okay. Something will make you to sit up. What is that? Once I wake up, waking up itself is not in my hands. I helplessly wake up. Once I wake up, I find myself lying down in my bed. When I am lying down, what pushes you to sit up? Supposing you refuse, Refuse to sit up and continue lying down. Keep lying down. Continue lying down. Refuse to sit up. How long you can refuse? Even your willpower is pushed aside. Even willpower, it uses and makes you sit up. Isn't it? After some time you make it up. Okay. You say that, okay, you have succeeded. Whom are you addressing? You address somebody in the air. Something made me to forcibly sit up. Something made me forcibly to wake up. Okay? Second stage made me to sit up. I will only sit. I will not get up and stand and walk. I will only sit up. Let me see how long you sit up. You can't sit for long. You feel hungry. You have to go somewhere. Brush your teeth. Go to bathroom. Somewhere something should done. Something will push you from inside and will make you do all these things. Okay, after taking bath and everything, come and sit there. You say, I won't eat. Okay, say, how long you will remain? Are you eating or you are made to eat? Tell me first. Are you consciously eating? Suppose you refuse to eat, what will happen? Something inside, something from your inside pushes you and makes you to eat. Makes you to eat, forcible lockdown. Okay? Forces you to drink water. Okay, sit on the chair for long. No, you can't sit. After some time, your leg will feel uncomfortable. It forces you to stand up. It forces you to walk. This is called samsara. Now you understand what is samsara? You are helplessly made to go through many things. Many changes take place in you. You are forced to undergo one after the other, one after the. You are forced to go to school. You are forced to study. You are forced to take up job. You are forced to get married. You are forced to have children. You are forced. Some things happen through you. Even if you don't want, there is no question of want or don't want. Something makes you to do things. What a great wonder. This is called samsara. In fact, nobody is doing anything. As if something is happening, like water is flowing, things are flowing through you. Even you are a part of a flow. Samsarati. Samsaran anartham anubhavati. Swamiji says, living this samsara. Living this samsara means undergoing this samsara. We are subject to pain and pleasure and positive, favorable, unfavorable, good and bad, and then all these things go on. This is what is samsara. Why? You are in samsara because you are an individual. That is a jiva. Why are you individual or jiva? I don't know. I wake up myself and I find that I am a human being. Have you decided to be a human being? Have you decided to be a jiva? Who is to decide? It is the jiva who decides good and bad and does. But I find myself to be jiva. I don't know why and how. This is what I am. Therefore, this is swabhavika adhyasa, natural, instinctive. In being in this adhyasa, you are talking. You are talking already being in adhyasa. What a wonder of life. See the thinking of our rishis. My God. Do you find any book anywhere on the earth which talks like this? No book except Vedanta. Nobody talks like that. It is the greatness of thinkers of the Upanishadic rishis and Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, Shankaracharya, all these acharyas. Ato mithya jnana nimitta evayam vyavaharaha. Okay, the next topic changes. Vyavaharaha. Anyway, we'll stop it. We will tell. In 5 minutes is there, but doesn't matter. We'll take rest. We'll have evening as before. And tomorrow English talk again. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.